The law of the land. The United States exists in two forms: the original United States, that was in operation until 1860, a collection of sovereign republics in the Union. Under the original Constitution, the states controlled the federal government. The federal government did not control the states and had limited authority. The original United States of America has been usurped by a separate and different United States corporation formed in 1871, which only controls the District of Columbia and its territories, and which is actually a corporation, the United States Corporation, that acts as our current government. The United States Corporation operates under corporate commercial law rather than common private law. In the original Constitution and Declaration of Independence, it refers to these United States. The word united was an adjective describing the noun states. That is why the lowercase on united. When the United States Corporation was formed in 1871, the United was changed to United, because the United States, as a corporation, was now a noun. The original Constitution was never removed. It has simply been dormant since 1871. It is still intact to this day. This fact was made clear by Supreme Court Justice Marshall Harlan Downs v. Bidwell, 182, the United States 244, 1901, by giving the following dissenting opinion: two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution, with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. The Restore America Plan reclaimed the de jure institutions of government of the 50 state republics in order to restore common law that represents the voice of the people and ends corporate law that ignores the voice of the people while operating under Maritime Admiralty international law. This occurred when warrants were delivered to all 50 governors on March 30, 2010. The governors refused to return to the de jure constitutional republican form of governance. We the people then elected officers and legislators to fill the vacant seats that were abandoned in 1871. The rewritten 1871 Constitution of the United States Corporation bypasses the original Constitution for the United States of America, which explains why our congressmen and senators don't abide by it, and the president/CEO can write executive orders to do whatever he/she wants. They are following corporate laws that completely strip sovereigns of their God-given unalienable rights. Corporate commercial law is not sovereign private, as it is an agreement between two or more parties under contract. Common law, which sovereigns operate under, is not commercial law, it is personal and private. Source: Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition with pronunciations. Government de facto. A government of fact. A government actually exercising power and control, as opposed to the true and lawful government, a government not established according to the Constitution of the nation, or not lawfully entitled to recognition or supremacy, but which has nevertheless supplanted or displaced the government de jure. A government deemed unlawful, or deemed wrongful or unjust, which, nevertheless, receives presently habitual obedience from the bulk of the community. There are several degrees of what is called de facto government. Such a government, in its highest degree, assumes a character very closely resembling that of a lawful government. This is when the usurping government expels the regular authorities from their customary seats and functions, and establishes itself in their place, and so becomes the actual government of a country. The distinguishing characteristic of such a government is that adherents to it and war against the government de jure do not incur the penalties of treason, and, under certain limitations, obligations assumed by it in behalf of the country or otherwise will, in general, be respected by the government de jure when restored. Such a government might be more aptly denominated a government of paramount force, being maintained by active military power against the rightful authority of an established and lawful government, and obeyed in civil matters by private citizens. They are usually administered directly by military authority, but they may be administered, also, by civil authority, supported more or less by military force. Thornton Smith, 75. The United States 8 Wall. 1, 19L ed. 361. De facto government. One that maintains itself by a display of force against the will of the rightful legal government and is successful, at least temporarily, in overturning the institutions of the rightful legal government, by setting up its own in lieu thereof. Wartam. Walker, 133 text 255, 128 SW2D 1138, 1145. Government Enter. A government of right, the true and lawful government, a government established according to the Constitution of the nation, and lawfully entitled to recognition and supremacy and the administration of the nation, but which is actually cut off from power or control. A government deemed lawful, or deemed rightful or just, which, nevertheless, has been supplanted or displaced, that is to say, which receives not presently, although it received formerly habitual obedience from the bulk of the community. Digger. Descriptive of a condition in which there has been total compliance with all requirements of law. Of right, legitimate, lawful, by right and just title. In this sense it is the contrary of de facto QV. It may also be contrasted with de gratia, in which case it means as a matter of right, as de gratia means by grace or favor. Again it may be contrasted with diquitate, here meaning by law, as the latter means by equity. HOWTHECONSTITUTIONWASUSURPEDBYTHECORPORATION. The United States Corporation has no obligations or accountability to we the people except to make a profit as a corporation. The corporate interest does not benefit the people but uses the people and their labor to make profit for the corporation. This corporation is in concert with the corporate courts and banks to accomplish the theft of the people's wealth. The unlawful transfer of the constitutional money authority over to a private foreign bank Federal Reserve has completely devastated all of our lives. This crime of taking the money authority away from we the people must be corrected and restored back to the constitutional republican form of governance. This is the only way our country can become prosperous once again. From a speech in Congress in the bankruptcy of the United States Congressional Record, March 17, 1993, Vol. 33, page H1303, Speaker Representative James Traficant, Jr. Ohio addressing the House states, "It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Stat. 1. Public Law 89-719 declared by President Roosevelt, being bankrupt and insolvent. H.J.R. 192, 73rd Congress M. Session June 5, 1933 Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental offices, officers, and departments and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers, via the United Nations, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers. With the constitutional republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist communist order under a new governor for America. This act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of Treasury to that of the Governor of the International Monetary Fund. Public Law 94,564, page 8, Section H or 13,955 reads in part, that the United States Secretary of Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States prior to 1913. Most Americans own clear, allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens of mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, stockholders held legal title. The United States citizen tenant, franchisee was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects, the 14th Amendment the United States citizen to the Federal Reserve System. In return, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all of the credit money substitute it needed. Like any debtor, the Federal United States government had to assign collateral and security to their creditors, as a condition of the loan. Since the Federal United States didn't have any assets, they assigned the private property of their economic slaves, the United States citizens, as collateral against the federal debt. They also pledged the unincorporated federal territories, national parks, forests, birth certificates, and non-profit organizations, as collateral against the federal debt. All has already been transferred as payment to the international bankers. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign, and the common people had no rights to hold a allodial title to property. Once again, we the people are the tenants and sharecroppers renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. Who can work better or can try right now? The constitutional republican form of government has been re-inhabited with office and legislative seats filled. As the Republic for the United States works hard to reinstall this government, the knowledge and truth about what has happened needs to be told. All Americans need to know the history of this tragedy, but with the good news about how it has been brought back. Much help is needed to correct all the unconstitutional laws, codes, and programs that plague our country today. The Republic for the United States of America is not a movement, it is the lawful government of the United States. Become part of the re-inhabitation process, and get involved with the Republic for the United States of America.